Nobody knows when things will return to normal. Whenever that happens, we will be facing a world looking to recover and rebuild.
Hi, I'm Aisha, and I live in India. My dad passed away when I was 4, so I don't really remember him. But since then, my mom has been obsessed with only one thing, my marriage. Oh, my poor baby doesn't have a father. The only way you can do well in life now is to get married. She started looking for potential husbands everywhere. We couldn't go to the grocery store without her distributing my picture. At the park, she'd take the numbers of all the moms who had boys my age. I'm only 5, Mommy. I know that. You'll get married when you're 18, but we have to start looking now, or all the good ones will be gone. Mom was crazy and had a marriage fever. I wished she was normal. But one day, when I was 11, I came home to find a necklace on the table with a note. You're a lost cause, Aisha, but I found myself a husband and he doesn't want kids, so leaving you with Aunt Pinky. P.S. This necklace is for your dowry. Don't touch it till you're married. What? Mom had just left me for some strange guy? I just put the necklace away when suddenly the kitchen door flew open and a woman barged in. I recognized Aunt Pinky because we'd met once. She was my mom's older sister, and I knew she and Mom hated each other. Behind her was my cousin, who came running to me and knelt down on all fours. I'm Maya, remember me? I'll be your sister, and we'll be BFFs for life. Come on. She pushed Maya's bags into my hands. Take these to your room, and take your stuff to the attic. I'm hungry. I don't want to move to the attic, and I don't know. Stop lying. Mom, Aisha and I can share her room. Right, sis? Auntie Pinky glared at me and walked away. Phew, at least Maya had my back. Over the next few years, life was horrible. Auntie Pinky was always making me do chores around the house and wouldn't even let me hang out with my friends unless Maya begged for me. This one time, we had to get our school trip permission slip signed by Auntie. But as soon as she signed Maya's, she threw the pen. I can't breathe. I'm dying. Leave my room, you two. But my slip, that's what you're worried about? You heartless child. Get out. Of course, I missed the trip. But that night, I added sugar instead of salt to dinner. And seeing the look on Auntie Pinky's face, I had to admit revenge was Pinky's face. I had to admit revenge was sweet. Maybe Mom was right. Marriage was the only solution for orphan like me, I just had to wait a little longer to leave, for good. But things really got to my I was furious. But when I got to the lounge all dressed up, I saw all the banners had been an orphan like me. I just had to wait a little longer to leave, for good. But things really got to my head on my 16th birthday. It was the first time that Auntie agreed to let me have a party. But when I got to the lounge all dressed up, I saw all the banners had been changed to Happy Pre-Birthday Maya. Just then, Auntie Pinky pushed me into the kitchen. Dinner won't cook itself. We can't keep Maya's guests waiting. I was furious. Suddenly, I knocked over a bottle of juice by accident, and it went spilling everywhere. Hung open just then, and AJ, our super rich neighbor's son, "Hey, let me help you with that." And before I knew it, he'd taken off his shirt and was mopping up the mess. Having trouble not drooling because, boy, he was ripped. But I quickly reminded myself that Maya had a huge crush on him. Aisha, isn't it your birthday? Why are you always doing chores? Oh, I'll do lots of fun stuff once I'm out of this stupid place. You know, once I'm married. That's your exit plan? It sounds terrible. Okay, do you have a better idea? He stepped closer and pushed a strand of hair behind my ear, making my heart skip a beat. Yeah, actually, I do. Right at that moment, Maya and Aunt Pinky barged in and they looked livid. We were just cleaning up some mess. Aisha, how could you make AJ work? You should have told me. Look at that boy's expensive shirt. Why do you always act like a helpless princess? Go to your room, now. No, it's not her fault, I promise. You're just making things worse. Please, stay out of it. And I stormed off to my room angrily. Worst birthday ever. When Maya came to bed later that night, she looked super mad. What's the deal with you and AJ? He just left after you came upstairs. Maya, I don't care about him. It's all yours. Listen, I've just decided something. I gotta find a boy now so I can get married soon. I can't live with your mom much longer. She looked thrilled and promised to help me. My plan was simple. Find a boy, marry the boy. At first, it wasn't tough. All I had to do was comb my hair and put on some makeup, and every boy in school was practically fighting for my attention. My first date was a dream. The guy was totally into me. You're so beautiful. I think I want to marry you someday. I immediately plopped my ring onto the table. Why wait? I have my great-great-grandmother's ring right here. For a second, he came back. After that, it was a new date every night, and always the same thing. They were all declaring love at first sight, but the minute I brought up marriage, they were gone. Soon enough, everyone stopped asking me out. I was so bummed out, until one day, as I was walking down the hallway, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me into the janitor's closet. It was AJ. What are you doing? Me? What are you doing? Are you crazy? Listen, I've no idea what you're talking about, but let me go. It's crazy how you're chasing every guy at school, but you run away from me when I... He stopped mid-sentence, and suddenly I realized his face was just inches from mine. You what, AJ? He leaned in closer. Oh my God, was he going to kiss me? But instead, he pushed me away. When I'm only looking out for you, there's rumors that you're desperate to get married because you're pregnant. What? I'm not pregnant. I've never even kissed anyone. Really? Well, in that case. He stepped close to me again, but just then, Maya opened the door and she was staring daggers at me. Oh, Maya, AJ was just telling me about the worst rumor. Everyone thinks I'm pregnant. This will ruin my chances of finding a boy. What? That's horrible. I promise I'll find out who's spreading that rubbish and make them pay. For the next few weeks, all I did was avoid AJ and try to find a decent guy. And then one day, the school's biggest jock, Zane, slid in until you do. I grinned back at him and whispered, I do. We started dating, and he was sweet and romantic. A week later, I decided to bring up the marriage issue soon. But instead, Zane marched up to me in the cafeteria during recess and got down on one knee. Will you marry me, Aisha? Of course. Zane twirled me around and kissed me. It was my first kiss ever, and it was not that great. Where were the freaking fireworks? Later that day, I was looking at my ring. I heard someone behind me. That's a really ugly ring. What's your problem, AJ? My problem is that you're being stupid and getting married for all the wrong reasons. You think marriage will solve your problems, but it will only give you new problems. Hey, you don't get to judge me because you don't know what it's like to be in my shoes. You're a millionaire's spoiled son, and I'm an orphan. Now I'm about to get everything I've ever wanted, so why are you trying to ruin it for me? Suddenly, he took my hand and looked into my eyes. Because I think you're amazing, Aisha, and you deserve so much more. I hope you realize that before it's too late. And with that, he left. Ugh, the stupid boy. The next few months were crazy. Zane was even more excited about our marriage than me. One day, he was taking me out to hunt for the perfect dress. Another day, he was picking up card designs. He even brought his parents over to meet Aunt Pinky. Hey, Zane, take it easy, will you? We've still got 2 years to go before we can get married. Oh, babe, I'm just so excited because I love you so much. I'll try to be cool, okay? As he kissed me, all I could think was, geez, even being near AJ was more exciting than kissing this guy. And soon enough, I found out why. One day after school, I was looking everywhere for Zane. When I suddenly stopped short in my tracks, I spotted him under the bleachers kissing another dude. Wait, what? I stormed over to them. The other guy ran off, but Zane looked completely calm. Oh, it's just you. Okay. You. Eventually. You're gay? Then why are you pretending to be in love with me? Because, sweetie, this is perfect. I want to hide that I'm gay, and you just want to get married. We both get what we want. Aya suggested it. The girl's a genius. Maya? I threw Zane's ring at him and ran home to confront that witch. Oh, you found out already? Boo-hoo. What are you so angry about, Aisha? I was only helping you get what you want. I suddenly snapped. I always knew Aunt Pinky hated me, but I never knew you were such a snake. Did you spread that rumor about me too? Duh. I wanted AJ to think you were just a desperate loser. And it's not even a lie. Listen, Aisha, you're just a poor orphan, and Zane is your ticket out of here, so don't mess it up. I deserve more. And he was so right. I packed my bags and marched out. And I sold the necklace Mom had left me and moved to a hostel. I started studying. A few months flew by, and the end of the year party came around. I was standing by myself in the corner when suddenly someone took my hand. What have you done, Aisha? What did I do? I swear, whatever it wasn't me. And then suddenly he pulled me close and kissed me. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you, and I can't avoid you any longer. I'll marry you if that's what it takes to be with you. So, Aisha, will you marry me? By then, everyone around us had stopped to stare as AJ went down on one knee. But I pulled him up. No, you were right about everything. And I'm done with all that silly marriage nonsense. But AJ, will you be my boyfriend? He laughed and twirled me around, and Maya screamed and passed out. We graduated high school and went to different universities. And then on our 5th anniversary, he popped the question again. And this time, I said yes.
I was sitting in history class thinking of what to do to get my to stop talking about, well, history. Like, I'm sorry. Why would I want to know about Alexander Hamilton when I could be playing basketball right outside this classroom? If you like this video, remember to hit that like button and turn on post notifications so you never miss another insane story. I tapped the girl in front of me on the shoulder and a wink told her what I wanted. She ripped a few pages out of her notebook and handed them to me with a smile. I opened my bag without my teacher seeing me. If he had seen me, he would have immediately known what I was up to. I ripped the paper into little bits, and soon enough, I was shooting little goopy paper balls, not at my teacher, but at the ceiling right above him. I then asked for permission to go to the bathroom. He handed me my hall pass, but before I left, I gave the wall a little punch, which shook the ceiling above, and the paper balls rained down, getting stuck to my teacher's bald head. The class erupted in laughter as I ran out of the classroom before my teacher could get me for what I did. I did stuff like this in pretty much every class. Sometimes it was pretending to be dumb, sometimes it was the classic paper plane, and sometimes it was playing an obnoxiously loud video on the smartboard. I only got into real trouble once, and when I did, my entire class protested to get me out of detention, saying the teacher had no need to be so rude when he told me off. I was pretty much golden at school, not having to put in any effort and just passing my classes. I never thought it would all catch up to me until it finally did. I heard my name being called on the intercom.
Jason B., please report to the principal's office immediately.
Rang through the halls. Everyone turned to look at me, some just about ready to come with and defend my honor. I walked into the colorful office our principal worked from and sat down in one of the chairs in front of us.
Jason, it's about time you start worrying about your academic future.
She said.
Not to toot my own horn, but this is a pretty great school. The vast majority of our students pass their classes with flying colors, and you're way below average. We're gonna have to ask you to switch schools, honey.
I was shocked. They were kicking me out to improve the school's average grades? I didn't know if I should feel worried or insulted, so I chose something in between. The principal told me it would take endless hours to catch up to the lowest grade they would let me stay with. God, I really didn't want to switch schools or tell my parents about this, but I also didn't want to do work. I had to figure something out, and quickly. That weekend, I was helping out my dad at one of his open houses. He was getting a shipment of rented furniture to make it look more cozy for possible buyers, so he needed me to help him put everything where it belongs.
So, how's it going with school, kid?
He asked when we were done. It's going, I guess, I replied. He knew I was never great at school, but he didn't know I was at risk of expulsion.
Do you have a lot of homework, or do you have time for one more stop?
He asked next. I told him I was always down to spend time not doing homework, and then we hopped back in the car and he drove a few minutes out of the city. He parked in front of this huge abandoned warehouse. It was absolutely massive. There were broken windows and doors everywhere, which we had to clean up.
God, I don't know how I'm ever going to sell this place.
My dad sighed. He said it had been on the market for ages, with not a single interested person. As I looked around, an idea started forming in my head. This place had a lot of potential. Big open spaces, concrete walls and floors, random slabs of concrete that would work as tables or chairs. This right here could be the greatest party spot in town, and maybe a party was just what I needed. You see, everyone in my class was stressed as hell for this huge exam we had coming up. I figured that all I needed was to distract all these nerds and keep them from studying. If they put in the same amount of effort I did, there was no way they still aced the exam, right? I spread the word at school that I was throwing a huge party. I told people to invite my class, maybe not even in my school, through parties. They were all a bunch of nerds. A cousin of mine hooked me up with some lighting and speakers. Plus I got some chips and soda, and I was ready for everyone to show up in the warehouse out of town that we would never get caught in. I waited and waited, but it was getting kind of late and nobody was there yet. Was I just wasting my time? Did these kids really ditch the first party in their high school career to study? Then, in the distance, I saw lights approaching. Tons and tons of lights. Over a dozen cars parked in front of the warehouse,
We read online that it's cool to be fashionably late.
said the first girl to get out of a car. Damn, these nerds even studied parties. People poured out of the cars, and soon the huge warehouse was absolutely full of people. Everyone was dancing, or at least trying to. The music was so loud, you couldn't hear yourself think. In fewer words, it was awesome. I have no idea what time I got home that night, but I slept the entire day and went to school the day after not having studied a single thing. It was me, my blue pen, and an energy drink against the world. The halls were filled with panicked people. They were all cramming the material last minute. But if there's anything worse than cramming, it's panicked cramming. None of that info sticks. I swear I heard more than one little sob in the still classroom while we took the exam. When people spilled out of the room, I was surprised. They were all laughing. Some were laughing hysterically. Ah, the first failure effect. When you fail something so badly that it's quite literally laughable. I've been there. When everyone saw me, they flocked to me, asking when the next party was. If I kept this thing up until the end of the year, I could lower their grades so my exams back. I didn't even have the lowest score. But I did realize there was one problem. One tiny thing I failed to consider. Derek. Derek was a textbook nerd. Bowl cut, little bow tie, and thick-rimmed glasses. He was the top of the class, and my one obstacle, now that I had everyone else addicted to partying and having fun. I couldn't even have fun at the parties now, though, because these kids were going wild. They started dropping bottles all over the place to calculate the velocity at which they hit the ground or something. And one of the idiots forgot later and tried to do the work on the floor that I hadn't had the chance to clean up yet. Don't worry, he was fine. They managed to grab him right before he hit the floor, but he didn't get why they stopped him and got angry. The kid then ran out of the warehouse and plunged into the river. Everyone went looking for him, which was cool because it gave me some time to be everyone's maid and clean up the glass. But then the kid somehow managed to grab this huge fish from the river, and after everyone inspected it and decided that it was not, in fact, poisonous in any way, they went back to their roots as cavemen and decided to cook it. Now, imagine a bunch of excited and sweaty teenagers staring hungrily into the flames, waiting for a fish to cook. I thought I was losing my mind. I had created monsters, and I had to clean up after them. Even remembering it gives me a headache. I would much think about Derek, even though that gives me a headache too. After some careful from afar, I discovered that Derek was a huge mama's boy. She bought all his clothes, she cut his hair at home, and she sat down with him while he did homework. She was a college professor and had been top of her class all throughout her youth. Okay, maybe my observation became a tad stalkerish in the end, but it was all for the cause. I was willing to put all the effort in the world into avoiding putting effort in school. Hey, Derek, buddy, I said, running up to the kid and throwing an arm over his shoulders. I haven't seen you at my parties, pal. What's up with that? I asked. He sort of panicked when I approached. He started muttering something about his mom not letting him go to parties, that she said they ruin your life and that teenagers are monsters. Nonsense. Why don't I pick you up tonight and bring you as my guest of honor, bud? I suggested with my most charming smile.
I actually have horse lessons tomorrow morning, so I must be in bed by 8 o'clock.
He started to drone on before I interrupted him and told him I'd pick him up at 10. He protested, but I passed Derek's house at 10 o'clock sharp that night. But the lights were off. I beeped my horn a couple times, but nothing. I finally decided to get out and go knock on Derek's window. It was thankfully on the ground floor. I knocked a few times and he jolted awake. I waved and smiled as he rubbed his eyes and came up to the open window. The second it was open, I climbed inside.
What are you doing here? It's past my bedtime.
He said. I told you I was picking you up at 10. Chop chop, get dressed, I replied. Then there was a soft knock on the door.
Derek? Sweetie? Did you have a nightmare? Why are you awake?
Asked his mom through the door.
Yes, I did, Mother. I'm going back to sleep now.
He responded. He started pushing me to the window, but I couldn't let him continue being a fantastic student. You think I'm gonna let my best friend waste his Friday night like this? I whispered to him. He stopped pushing me and his eyes went wide.
I'm your best friend?
He asked. I swear, his lip quivered a little. Yes, now get dressed, bestie, I whispered back. He got dressed at record speed, but he knocked over a stack of books. His mom suddenly opened the door and her face went sour when she saw a second teenage boy in her son's bedroom way past his bedtime.
You stay away from my boy.
She shouted as she lunged at me. I swerved her just in time and motioned at Derek to climb out the window. His mom ran after me through the house. I managed to run circles around their kitchen island while she chased after me. I was having fun with this crazy lady shouting all sorts of stuff at me, but I drew the line when she started. I ran out the front door with her still hot on my tail. Get in, get in, get in! I shouted at Derek when I got close to my car. I locked the doors just before she tried to open Derek's door, and we sped right out of there.
That I ever had in my entire life.
The kid smiled. I told him the fun was just starting. I had no idea Derek would be such a party animal. By the end of the night, people were carrying him on top of the crowd and chanting his name. The kid was in heaven. I was having a blast too, for once, until red and blue lights started flashing and sirens approached. Everyone scattered. I grabbed Derek and we sped out of there in my car. I saw that some kids were being shoved into the back of cop cars, but somehow they still looked happy. They were still having the time of their lives. Though, to be honest, I'd be crying. Derek and I woke up around noon the next day. He didn't want to go back to his house, and my parents didn't mind him crashing in the guest bedroom. While we had breakfast, my dad came out of his office, smiling from ear to ear.
Some kids got busted throwing a huge party in my warehouse. Now some millennials want to turn it into a club. I sold it.
He exclaimed. I congratulated my old man and was kind of proud that I helped somehow. Only downside was, now I would have to look through his files to find someplace else to throw my parties. Because my classmates were not nearly done partying. Even the ones that got arrested wanted more. I was amazed at the effect I had on these kids. Now it wasn't me disturbing class, it was them. They got busted for doing graffiti on the school walls, for clogging toilets on purpose. They were vandals. Thankfully, they were vandals who were sort of flunking school. So in the end, things worked out in my favor and I didn't get kicked out of school. Was it all worth the trouble? Maybe. It definitely made school a lot more interesting. I followed the line of kids piling into the school hall. It was the end of year assembly and the whole school was gathered to hear their academic achievements. I took a seat at the back of the room, trying to look inconspicuous. There was a buzz in the room as everyone chatted away nervously. I was also nervous, but not for the reason you might think. I was probably the only person in that room who was dreading hearing their results. As the principal started calling out people's names one by one, there were shouts of joy as people went up to collect their awards. Trophies for the best soccer player and awards for the best drama students. Finally, it was time for the award that everyone had been waiting for, the Student of the Year Award. The principal picked up his microphone and started talking.
Now it is time to give out the Student of the Year Award. As you all know, this is a very hard-working student in the school. The student who has won this year has achieved outstanding success. To me, great pleasure to announce the winner is Martin Anderson.
The whole school broke out into applause, and all eyes turned towards me. I just sat there, frozen to my seat. Suddenly, I felt someone nudge me from behind.
Go on, Martin. Go up and get your trophy.
As I stood up and walked toward the stage, I could feel everyone's eyes on me. In a daze, I shook the principal's hand and listened as he congratulated me.
Very well done, Martin. You should be proud of yourself.
I took the trophy from his hand and walked back to my seat. I had never felt so miserable in all of my life. I was devastated. But before I go on, make sure you like, and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't end up humiliated like I was. I can imagine you're probably wondering what's wrong with me. Well, it was the opposite. You see, I knew that me getting the trophy was going to bring me to the attention of Brian and Alex. They're the most popular couple at our school, but they are also the meanest, and I was about to become their next victim. They hated anyone that did well in school and went out of their way to make his or her lives a misery. Whenever someone did well in class, they would be the first people to criticize them. I really didn't want to get on the wrong side of those two. As soon as the principal told us we could leave, I picked up my trophy and ran out of the hall as fast as I could. All I wanted to do was get out of school without talking to anyone. But luck wasn't on my side. As I walked down the hall to get my coat back, everyone stopped me to say well done or congratulations. Eventually, I managed to avoid them. Who should come walking in? Alex. I tried to ignore them, but they wouldn't give up.
I bet you think you're so cool, don't you?
Just ignored me.
You know, only the biggest nerds ever win that trophy.
Yes, it's probably only some cheap plastic thing anyway.
Let's have a look, shall we?
With that, Brian tried to grab the trophy out of my hand. I held onto it as hard as I could, but he was bigger and stronger than I was. I watched May as he pulled it from me and dropped it on the ground. The trophy smashed into hundreds of little pieces.
Oops, sorry.
My eyes started filling with tears as I saw how they had destroyed my trophy.
Oh, Alex, look, I think he's gonna cry.
Cry, baby. Cry, baby.
I ran out of the school building and into the yard. Some of my friends had seen what Brian and Alex had done, and they came over to try and comfort me.
Just ignore them, Martin. They're not worth it. It's only a trophy. Everyone still knows that you're the student of the year. You don't need a trophy to show it.
Even though I knew they were right, I couldn't help feeling sad that I didn't have the trophy to show to my parents. I knew my mom and dad would be so proud of me. Now, I wouldn't be able to tell them that I had won Student of the Year. If I did, they would want to see my trophy. Then I would have to explain what Brian and Alex had done. If I did that, they would start worrying about me being picked on, and I didn't want them getting stressed. So when I got home, I didn't mention anything to them. I could tell my mom was suspicious that I wasn't my usual self. But when she asked me if I was okay, I just told her that I had a bit of a headache. I think I'll just go and lie down for a while.
Okay, darling. Try to have a sleep and you will feel better then.
Yes, I'm sure I'll feel much better in the morning. As I lay on my bed, I thought about what Brian and Alex had done. They are so mean. I really detest them. Thank goodness it's the holidays. I won't have to see them for the next 2 weeks. For the rest of the holidays, I didn't give them any thought. I just enjoyed being at home with my family, having long lions and watching as much TV as I wanted. I also had our trip away to look forward to, because even though my parents weren't wealthy, we always had a little vacation during the holidays. I was excited because this year we were going to with my cousins for a few days. They had a huge farm in the countryside, and it was always so much fun there. From the minute we arrived at my cousin's place, it was nonstop fun and laughter. We climbed trees and swam in the river. I was really sad when it was time to go back home. I wish we could stay longer.
Don't worry, we can always come back again. Anyway, you have school to look forward to on Monday.
My heart sank when I heard my dad's words. Even though I wasn't looking forward to seeing Brian and Alex again. Yes, I guess so.
Well, don't sound too excited about it, will you?
Once I was back at school, I tried to avoid Brian and Isabel. I didn't have many classes with them, so it wasn't too difficult to. And whenever it was break time or lunchtime, I always tried to surround myself with my friends. Brian and Alex were mean, but they were also cowards. They would never pick on me if I was with my friends. On the odd occasion that they did catch me alone, they would just make some snide remark as I passed by them.
Oh, here he is, cry baby. What's the matter? Did you lose your trophy?
But it was just when I was starting to think that I could cope with Brian and Alex that they threw me a curveball. It was nearly the end of term, and we were about to have our final exams. I'd been preparing for these exams for weeks. It was really important to do well in these exams, especially if you wanted to get a scholarship for college. Anyway, I was walking out of the school gates when I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was Brian and Alex. What do you want? Brian leaned right up close to my face and whispered in my ear.
You'd better flunk the exam if you know what's good for you.
I was petrified. But why?
Never mind why. Just do as I say, okay?
Okay, I will.
Good.
But as I watched Brian and Alex walk away, laughing to each other, I had already made up my mind that I wasn't going to do what they had said. I don't care what they do to me. I'm not going to flunk the exams. See, I knew that family could afford to pay for me to go to college. The only way I would be able to go was if I could get a scholarship. If I flunked the exams, then my academic record would be ruined and I would have no chance of getting a degree. And I needed a degree if I wanted to get a good job. So instead of listening to what they had told me, I decided to put even more effort into revising for my exams. Well, if I was going to go against them, I might as well try and get the best grades possible. It was about a week after the exams were over that we got the results. The teacher stood at the front of the class with the exam papers in her hand.
Well, I have some excellent news today. All of you have achieved excellent grades and should be very proud of yourselves. It's obvious that you have all been working very hard, but before I give you your papers back, I want to make a special mention about one student in particular. This student has achieved amazing results in all of his subjects. Congratulations to Martin Anderson for getting a score of 100% in every exam.
The whole class gasped when they heard what she said.
Whoa!
I looked at everyone's smiling faces and a feeling of joy swept through my body. But it soon turned to fear when I looked towards Brian and Alex. They were giving me the evilest of stares. I looked away and tried not to catch either of their eyes again. I spent the rest of the morning I was the last person to leave the classroom and stayed close to the teacher as I walked to the cafeteria. I really hoped that once I got there I would be safe, but I hadn't counted on how angry Brian and Alex were going to be. I had just got my lunch and sat down at the table with my friends when the two of them came striding towards me.
You're gonna regret crossing us, you stupid nerd.
The next thing I knew, the two of them had both tipped their trays of food right on top of my head. Spaghetti and sauce mixed with meat and gravy dripped down my face and onto the floor.
That'll teach you to mess with us.
The whole cafeteria erupted into laughter at the sight of me. I was so embarrassed. All I wanted to do was go and hide in a corner, away from everyone. I ran into the bathroom and cleaned myself up as best as I could. When I got back out, I could hear snatches of everyone's conversations.
Oh my god, I thought I was gonna die laughing. Did you see his face?
I know, it was so funny.
I was seething inside. Brian and Alex humiliated me in front of the whole school. There was no way I was going to let them get away with what they had done to me. I had to think of a way to get my revenge on them. All of a sudden, I had an idea. At the end of the afternoon, I went to the principal's office.
For you.
Hello, sir. I was wondering, do you be okay for me to host an event at school?
What kind of event?
A movie screening?
I can't see why not, as long as it's an age-appropriate movie, Martin.
Oh, yes, sir. It will be.
Well, fine then. Go ahead and organize it.
Thank you. So the very next day, I started planning the event. I made some poster flyers to all the kids, telling them about the event. Make sure you tell all your friends to come. This is going to be a night to remember. You won't want to miss it. When the night of my event arrived, I set up the movie equipment in the school hall and waited for everyone to arrive. Start the movie. I pressed play and the screen lit up, but instead of the opening credits of Avengers Endgame appearing, a home video of Brian and Alex started playing. It took a few seconds for everyone to realize what was going on, but once they did, they all started howling with laughter. The video was full of Brian and Alex really interesting things, like Brian tipping over and falling headfirst into a river. Then Alex trying to save him and falling in after. Another time, they were both singing karaoke at some family wedding. It was worse than listening to cats screaming. Then switched videos of them picking on other kids at school. All the things that they had ever said being played out for everyone to hear. Everyone turned to stare at Brian and Alex. Now it was their turn to be embarrassed. As they sat there in the middle of everyone, I watched as they squirmed and tried to ignore as everyone started pointing at them. Buying
In the canteen enjoying our lunch. It was my favorite time of the day. Laura, friends since we were 5 years old, and we told each other. I became aware of someone standing behind me. When I turned,
I've got something for you.
what? She was holding on top of my head. Bits of the bait.
Look at you.
Everyone stopped what they were doing and started pointing and laughing at me. Then pulled out a camera and took a photo of me. I wanted to cry. Why is she so my dad had split up when I was about 2 years old. So when she told me that she had met someone, you can imagine how happy I was. I didn't like to think of my mom being lonely. I wanted her